Good morning. I'm Jo Saltz, the editorial director of House Beautiful. I'm incredibly thrilled to be here with this extraordinary panel, but also I want to say thank you to Michael and his amazing team for everything that we've had the opportunity to experience even thus far. Also, I want to say thank you to Michael for putting us first, because it still feels like people are in a good mood and are excited, caffeinated. So. Of course, Jane and Kathryn are here, and we're just so excited to chat with you today. Really, my job is to keep the conversation on track, because these two extraordinary women have so much amazing stuff to share. So why don't you guys start a little bit? The reason that Michael thought it would be great for the three of us to chat is because you have such a deep and illustrious history in the UK, frankly, UK and US. So I want to talk a little bit about your beginnings, and we're going to see some great childhood pictures up there too. So we're going to have the opportunity to. This is what I mean. They're going to be chatting. So Jane, why don't we start with you? Why don't you talk a little bit about your childhood and sort of how you ended up on this extraordinary road to design?
Well, thank God it happened, because anything could have happened. I was brought up in Kent, and Kent, yes. I went to school in Sussex, which was beyond useless, and then my parents thought that I should go to typing school, because at least it would always mean I could get a job. I could at least end up in a typing pool. So I did that. And of course didn't use it for years, because I then opened a gift shop called Treasure Island in the Pimlico Road, which was rather amazing, because I was like 23 years old, I suppose, bought the shop, and it was a gift shop, and we bought things from America, where there was a wonderful place on Fifth Avenue that sold to those kind of shops, and in Italy. And
Jane, how did you end up with the shop? What prompted you?
I think we all start with the shop.
I thought it was better than being in the typing pool, I think.
I bet your shorthand wasn't very good.
No, useless. But then, of course, now with computers, I'm actually quicker than anyone in my office, because it's like riding a bicycle. You don't forget it.
Actually, so we've got slightly similar backgrounds, because I went to school in Berkshire, but I ended up, my mother sent me to secretarial college.
Yeah, they were desperate for us.
Because I either was going to marry a marquis, or I was just going to be subservient. I was going to be subservient to a man, whatever I did.
Oh, I don't think my parents thought that was even in the
in
the shake-up either. Yeah.
What did they want you to do?
Well, work, basically.
Well,
yeah.
So Jane, so you had this shop,
yes.
and so this starts to.
Yeah. So then we obviously had to travel, went to Italy, and I started with my Pauline Boardman, who's American, lived in England at that time, and went to Italy, and neither of us spoke Italian, so we had written down, because it was before Google Maps, right, left, and straight on, so that we could ask the way, and this was shipping. Inglaterra?
to get home?
No, to get the stuff over to the shop.
Oh, I see.
So you go ahead, continue.
So then the department stores in those days didn't go abroad and buy that sort of thing. When they then started to, I realized it wasn't exclusive. So then, and I'd done my own house, and people said, oh, would you help me? I thought, oh, I'll do this for free for a bit. So then I sort of set that up as a business, and then got into my fabrics and wallpapers as well. And I'm still in the Pimlico Road, and I've been there longer than anyone else.
Unbelievable.
The old bag in the street.
Kathryn, talk a little bit about your starting, how things started for you, and where it all started.
Well, I suppose I always had a love of interiors. I was the annoying girl that when I would go and stay one of my friends' Statelys, because we grew up in a modest cottage on the West Coast, whereas Jane was in her lavish large houses.
No,
although you say you were not. Then
I did wasn't brought up there.
Well, I know, but you spent Christmases there.
I did.
So I used to move the furniture around, because I couldn't bear it if something wasn't quite in the right place. So I suppose that was my love, and my mother used to get World of Interiors, House and Gardens, and I used to pull out as a child, and I got to read in my bedroom. Actually, one of the visuals is a green sitting room I just did in the Cotswolds, and that was the colour of my bedroom I chose. So I was always into it, but Yeah, I did something called textile and design at school, and the only reason I did it for my A-levels, which is what you do before going to college, is because no one else signed up for it. And I thought, well, the teacher's never going to come. That'll be marvellous. I was now in London. I'd left boarding school, and I was in Sloane Square at Francis Holland. And so all we ever did, though, when she did turn up, was go to Peter Jones, which is that wonderful store that sells absolutely everything. And I don't know, that's where it began. So I actually do know which way the war and the West run,
Right.
you know. But it was, and I fell into it. I went to LA, I met a man at a dinner who was a filmmaker. I had 3 boys and with him, and I don't know, and I got out of filmmaking to do a house for Steve Martin when he came for dinner one night, and that it just...
And we both have 3 boys, which is rather extraordinary. It's obviously what happens in the design world. So watch it.
So I want to ask a little bit to your roots in the UK. In Scotland, did either one of you spend extensive amounts of time in Scotland?
Oh yes, my father was Scottish, from a place called Cucubershire, which, if you didn't hear me say it, you would not be able to, if you saw it written, Cudbright, we would probably call it. So we had this wonderful fisherman's cottage on the Solway Firth, and that's where we would decamp, get in my parents' 405 with 3 rows of seats. I think my parents smoked the whole way up to Scotland. Then we would stop sort of somewhere at someone's house, and my father would have a gin and tonic. That's what it was in those days. And that's how we got there and back every summer for however many years, I don't know. But yes, no, Scotland was very much in my blood. My grandfather was a vet in sort of the whole of Ayrshire, Dumfries and Galloway. Actually, quite a lot of our friends' vets, in fact.
Really?
The McEwens.
Yeah, exactly.
McEwens vet. Yeah, so it's in my DNA. And when people ask me where I come from, I always say Scotland. That's what I identify with.
Jane, where did you spend most
Well,
of
more
your...
down south in England, but also with Nancy Lancaster, who was my grandmother's sister, and Nancy Astor, who was my great-great-aunt. She was my great-grandmother's sister. And she had a house at Sandwich in Kent. On the beach. So we spent every summer on the pebbly beach. But she was amazing. I can remember her doing cartwheels at 80 there, and she was the first woman MP. And she loved children. It was all her grandchildren, all of us, and of course being with Nancy Lancaster as well, who was just amazing. And they have wonderful houses. But you know, I was thinking about it the other day. They weren't at all pretentious. Although they were very comfortable and sumptuous by obviously those standards, but it was full of dogs and books and whatever, you know, and children were always included. So it wasn't sort of in any way, you know, like that at all. No, not a bit. It was all, we all joined in.
We all ate
yes,
together.
exactly.
I mean, it wasn't that thing, children were seen but not heard.
Exactly.
I think we were, certainly growing up here, it was at the next generation. I don't think by the time it got to us, no one could afford too much help. You know, it wasn't nannies and all of that. So we were just thrown out onto the Solway coast.
And of course, it was a lot safer then too.
Right. Yes.
You know, you could do those sort of things. But now you have to have helicopter parents, you know, because you don't dare let them out of your sight. But I think I was lucky enough to be, and I think I was also lucky because I was born nosy. And that has really helped, because I'm interested in everything, whether it's people's lives, whether it's their curtains, whether it's their houses.
She's a very good gossip, I'll have you know.
I will tell you, I will attest to this.
Because
last night, I had the great privilege of being able to tour that extraordinary estate with Andrew, who lives there because of Jane. And it was fascinating to hear Andrew talk about all these spaces. He did such a beautiful job, but it was actually even more fascinating to hear the two of them gossiping about, well, you know, his man in these
because I could bring up, I've known him since he was this size, I could bring up all the bad sides in the family.
She'd be like,
made him laugh.
Yeah, she'd be like, that man in that portrait, his great-grandson got married twice, and then they got divorced.
And that one died very young.
Right, exactly. It was really, he was a terrible drunk. I heard that a few times too.
I think the difference is in England in these
But it
great
makes it
homes.
human, doesn't
But
it?
these great homes have got so much storage. There's scandal, there's
That's
everything.
for sure not perfect, that's
No.
for sure.
No,
It
no, no.
really, actually, and I'm so glad you bring this up, and actually the fact that you're talking about the livability of these interiors, because I'll say as the American on the board, on the panel here, that's not what these spaces evoke.
No, it brings them to life when
Right.
you know those details and what they've had to do to continue with them.
Yeah.
There's always been a bad egg, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Along the route.
Or a few.
Yeah, or
Quite
more,
a few.
one.
But I thought
You're
last
right.
night the house is so beautifully kept
Beautiful.
up. I mean, that was really,
It was,
really lovely.
but to hear even both of you sort of enamored of this too, and both of you have seen everything. You've seen and experienced.
There were a
everything.
couple of things we did.
Yeah, we still got a few on the bucket list.
There were a few things that I could send down to my notes.
Yeah.
Because actually it was amazing to hear how you both were so enamored of the details and the things there, and the way, to your point, the way they were able to keep up.
I thought that yellow drawing room was one of the prettiest rooms I've ever seen.
And I'm sure
that silk
everyone
was just to die for.
We've all taken a picture of that
it's
lovely
just absolutely
leaf.
beautiful.
Yeah.
The fabric by
Yeah.
Trell.
So how do you both feel, and Kathryn, I'll let you go first. How do you feel the being surrounded by all of this at such a young age has influenced you and and for you to be able to take those sensibilities and apply it to a California aesthetic? How do you feel as though this has really helped infuse?
Really, really, really helped, because obviously when by default you see all these wonderful places, it just gets embedded in you, and the colors. And I was lucky enough to grow up all my holidays, if I wasn't in Scotland, I was in County Durham at Wynyard Hall, which was the most fabulous house that David Hicks had designed in probably early 60s, mid 60s. Right. And he had a wonderful way of taking, the family portraits and then putting splashes of pinks and oranges, and he
first one to modernise.
He modernised the Statelys,
Yeah.
and it made you feel you could run around the hallways and down through the billiard room to the ballroom to the
He painted all the posh furniture at Broadlands white, which then must have been unbelievable. Now, of course, it looks absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Which is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. So you do feel as though that really.
Yes, without being that lucky, I probably would never. I would never have got into designing textiles and having the colour sense that I have. And I think colour's so particular because, you've got the sort of Designers Guild, which is a little bit more acidic.
Right.
But then I do a lot of colour, but I somehow, it's not quite, it molds in quite easily. And if you saw it last night, there was one room he apologised about. It was a bedroom upstairs.
Yes, with the
I thought it was
bed.
ravishing.
Yes.
And he said, "Oh God, I'm really sorry, but someone just redid the curtain hanging."
Actually, it sort of made it more. It made it younger.
If you remember the room with the pelmet, and it has orange and pink cherries, and I thought it
really
just
gave it oomph.
Yes. And he apologized.
He did. He said, "Oh
Yes.
God." I said, "It was ridiculous."
I said, "You'll learn to love it."
Jane, but Jane, tell me how not just the spaces, but the people who you have the
Well, also,
privilege.
I think what's so wonderful about this business is that every day is different. I'm either up a ladder on site, or I'm working with an architect, and I'm a detail merchant, so I find that fascinating, and I love all that. Yeah. And you meet people from the builders to all of you lot. And so every day is different, and it's so interesting that you can't not be upbeat, and, it's never, of course, obviously we have the odd client, well, let's be honest, that drive us all round the bend, but there we go. That's life in whatever business you're in.
But we have to, we're running the show, so we have to keep up.
Yeah, but as you said to me the other day, when Kathy got a new client, she said, well, before I get another new client, I'm going to interview their doctor and their psychiatrist.
Oh, I have
she's
to.
spot on.
I just want to know what meds are on.
Exactly. Yeah, what are we going to deal with here? Because you do find that you actually, you have to get into their lives to know how they want to live, which isn't obviously going to be the same way as you live necessarily.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be too bossy. You want to sort of make them feel happy about it.
Yeah.
And so, that's very important. That's why it pays to be nosy.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
Well,
ask all the right questions
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
housekeeper. Just somehow get in there,
Yes.
see how they are on a
Their
bad
DNA.
day.
Yes.
Because, the honeymoon part is all good and well.
Exactly, but...
Right. Jane, tell me though how your backstory and being surrounded by all of those family and friends infused your work. How do you?
Well, I think because it was just sort of always in the conversation, and I suppose I tell you what, I suppose I was brought up to notice. And I think that makes a big difference, And so, I mean, even just being here, going upstairs here, it's so wonderful, the detail.
Yeah.
It's things like that. So when you've been brought up to sort of notice, I think it really helps, and it gives one such pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, I have to ask. I was debating if I was going to ask this question, but I'm going to do it. Clients, Americans versus British. Who are the more annoying clients?
I
wanna
think
know.
very equal.
No.
I think it's very, very, very hard to make a sweeping statement. I mean, they're all pretty dreadful.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be honest. Yeah, we've got to make a living.
That's what I wanted.
It's either that or going down the job centre. What am I going to do there?
No, but having said that, there's some of the slides here. I've worked for an actor, English, although, he works in America a lot. And I mean, I don't give him notes on his acting, and he doesn't give me notes on my decorating, and it just works beautifully. Also, I think when you have clients that have got good manners and are appreciative, I think the men actually are better. I prefer working with men, and I actually started my career only working with divorcees, which was fantastic.
And not marrying them.
No, I didn't. No. I always said, I once had to give a talk in Buenos Aires, and it was for La Nación. And someone said, right at the end, they said, what's your best bit of advice? And I said, never sleep with your client until they've paid their last bill. And they didn't even bother to translate that into Spanish. There was a gaggle of people that understood enough, and howled and laughed, and the rest of the room went dead silent.
But I have to imagine
some clients have ended up as great friends as well. So
I know.
So we're slightly belittling them all. That's the
teasing.
amusing bit. Who wants to hear about the good ones?
No, well, I have yet to hear that.
Yeah.
But I feel that's probably a common story in this room too. You spend so much time that you do become friends. But how about the appreciation of design? Do you feel as though that British have a little bit of a better understanding of, or am I?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we all bring something different to the party, and I think what happens in America, all those wonderful East Coast houses from the Spanish colonial, I mean, they've got wonderful things. Obviously, they don't have the age that we have here in houses, but I don't know. I'd like if I could have as many houses as I wanted. You'd want a couple in the States, one in Scotland, one in the West Country. We have, of course, one in Italy and one in France.
Well, what's depressing, though? Yeah, exactly. What's depressing is that I've just done a house in Vero Beach, going down George Avenue where all those antique shops are. You go in and you say, where do you get that? And they go, the Cotswolds. And everything nice is there. You got it all.
No, you're better off shopping in the States than in England. Let someone else ship it over for you.
There's nothing but crap. It's really hard.
Baby pictures.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit too about the pictures that are, and we don't have a ton of time left, but what I find so fascinating too is that there was such an extraordinary sense of style. You both seem to have been really, I mean, that's an absolutely beautiful photo. What is that picture of?
Me with my youngest child, Alexander. I've got 3 boys. They're all well over 6 foot, and thank God they've all got their knees under a desk as well. They all work, which is all I wanted. Yeah.
But it seems
to support them.
You really did have such extraordinary origins with people who were surrounded you with great taste. Do you feel as though that really helped put you both on a path too?
Absolutely, because when you're surrounded by good taste, who wants bad?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
why would you settle for rubbish?
I always say to people, good, at the end of the day, bad taste costs way more than good taste, because at a certain point, your client's going to realize that they've got some second-class decorator who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Because good taste lasts. Good taste lasts.
That's me. That's me. So I had a nanny. We had a
Norland nanny.
We had a Norland nanny. And I was so mad about the Norland nanny. I think so was my father. That I had to wear I wanted a Norland nanny outfit. So
I've got finally fat, having a baby. I'm so excited.
You should have another baby. God, you've got a tummy on you.
That welcome is amazing. Go ahead, Kathy.
No. So the Norland nanny thing. So I've got, years and years of photographs of me just wearing a nurse's outfit, because that was as good as we could get. They didn't make Norland nanny outfits for 5-year-olds. but just that, having that, who has a Norland nanny? Who even knows what a Norland nanny is? Yeah. They go to school to teach, and they won't do anything apart from the child.
Yeah, and these days, guess what they learn? Security, because they all work for such rich people. That's top of the list.
Look, we've missed it now. Yes, it was me and my tutor, Miss Valentine.
This is what I mean. The audience is here, guys. We have to here.
They can
we're talking amongst ourselves.
I know. I'm like, we'll just leave them here for the rest of the day and we'll listen.
Join in.
I know. I love it. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. The two of you have been extraordinary.
5 minutes.
I know there's 5 minutes, but they're running late.
Oh.
So we want to keep it moving
I've
along.
got so much more.
I know.
Saving all the good bits for the next 5 minutes.
They're really ready to dig in.
It's begun.
The one thing actually that Kathryn did mention that I want to say is that you were part of the original DLM.
Oh yes, I did want to say this, and I thought it was 20 years, but it was 19 years ago that Peter Selleck, who sadly is not with us, but I wanted to thank him for this, because he invited 15 designers, and I don't know if anyone here is part of the 15. I don't think so. Were you?
You're too young.
You were. 15, remember at the Bel Air Hotel? And Peter, oh my God, you're all here. Oh, I'm so sorry. So we were at the Bel Air Hotel, and Peter basically was just taken over Waterworks, and he asked us how he could best serve us. And I remember I had to leave early because I was going to France, taking the 3 boys and 2 Jack Russells, and I went straight to the airport. But I think at the end of it, we said, oh, this is so much fun, let's do it again. And then the next year we went to Montecito, and boys over there, enough, I know what you're going to say. And then we
Ask about that later.
Then we went to Charleston, New Orleans, Venice, Copenhagen, and that's as far. So I haven't done one of these for many years. And I'm so delighted and thankful to be back. And Peter, thank you.
Well, we are so delighted that the two of you have given us the time really to listen. And we would listen to this all day. I implore you both to corner these women at some point during one of the events, because it's been incredibly fascinating. But thank you all so much for having us.